Deb Denny says, Egberto Willis, please update us on your daughter. Did you get to hear my statement about Judge's conflict of interest ruling on things that benefit them? I think it was an Esquire. Deb, I'll have to look for it. Forgive me for being a little transient right now. Rose Williams says, hi everyone. Bridge MCT says, hey Rose. And we have, Rose says, thank goodness you did. Yes, Rose called that an important call. Bridge, poor thing, for my dear beautiful Ashley. Bridge, talkative, where does she get that from? Bridge MCP, are you calling me talkative? I thought you were my friend, Bridge. I'm kidding, you know you're my girl, Bridge. Rose Williams says, sending her lots of love. And absolutely so. Well, I'm going to start the show today with an interview that I did. You know, right now we're having the police and Black Lives Matter, all that kind of stuff. Thank God she's recovering. Sarah BT on board. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play an interview that I did right here in DC with Reverend Hutchins. And what he's going to talk about is how do we make better interaction with cops? How do we make it better? Let's just go ahead and get started with Reverend Merkel. I think you told me to, Egberto, you said my name wrong. It's Merkel. So I better go ahead and get it right. So here is Reverend. Welcome to another edition of Politics on Right. I'm your host today. We're honored to have Reverend Marco Hutchins, who is the CEO of Movement Forward. He says the following, and I want you to listen distinctly. We've done the march, we've done the protesting, and now it's time to do the heavy lifting of decreasing bias, increasing respect and trust, protecting the lives of young men and women, but protecting the lives of law enforcement professionals as well. Reverend Hutchins, welcome to Politics Done Right.
Thank you. It's good to be with you.
First of all, tell us a little bit about the reason that formed Movement Forward.
You know, I've been at the forefront of human and civil rights advocacy for the last 25 years. I've been employed by all of the icons who work very closely with Martin Luther King Jr., including his wife, Mrs. Coretta Scott King, Congressman John Lewis, Jesse Jackson, Andrew Young, and so many others. There really is a need for another generation of leadership to emerge in the King tradition of leadership. This idea that somehow we can separate or segregate our morality is what led me to believe that we needed another movement. We needed to take the best of the civil rights movement, the women's rights movement, the movement for LGBTQ rights, all of those movements, and move them forward into more cooperative space, into a larger context, into a collaborative approach to actually solving problems. It's one thing to raise the issues, it's another thing entirely to deal with the problems in a solution-focused manner. And that's why we created Movement Forward, to be a modern and inclusive human and civil rights organization that takes the work of the movements in the past and brings them forward.
So you are not just, your agenda doesn't only include having police officers do the right thing. It's much more inclusive than that.
It is, but the idea of the subject matter of criminal justice, and particularly policing in America, is the most pressing human and civil rights issue in our consciousness today. So that is the issue that we are focused on at this moment in time. What we try to do differently than some of the organizations that have gone before us is we try to deal inclusively and comprehensively, if you will, with the human and civil rights or social justice causes that are before us. And I think it's something that we've missed over the last, 35 years of activism. It's kind of been one issue to another, as opposed to actually focusing on a single subject matter and figuring out a solution before you move on to another subject matter. And that's the kind of approach that we take to our activism in this moment.
In a constructively critical manner, give me organizations by name that you think probably require some change of direction in your view?
Well, I think we have to, it's tough to call names because I'm a member of these organizations. But when you look at organizations like, for example, and I don't want to call names of organizations, but I will give you an organization that is very near and dear to my heart, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, or SCLC. That's an organization that has an enormous history, but it also is an organization that is, frankly, inhibited by its history. So often we celebrate the successes of our organization's past and we don't bring them forward into more inclusive and collaborative spaces. So that's the kind of work that I think has to go on. We're not nearly as segregated as we were when some of these organizations were created. So if you want to deal with social justice, human and civil rights issues in this time where our generation, the younger generations, are more inclusive, we're more expansive in our thinking, we're more technologically sophisticated, the ways in which we do activism and approach social change need to innovate with the changing of the mindset of the people that we serve.
Understandably, you won't call names, and I think that's a good thing. So let me call names and ask specific questions to that name. What's in the ethos right now is Black Lives Matter and the way they do things with the way police have criminalized Black men for just being. And that's my opinion as well. What would you do differently? And don't you think the reality is many of these organizations that are much more confrontational open the doors for the organizations like, let's say, Movement Forward, because people realize that just maybe we need to take a different tact?
Yeah, I think there's always been a dual approach to how we deal with social justice. What made Martin Luther King Jr. so successful was the presence of Malcolm X and Stokely Carmichael and a lot of other folks.
Right.
That's why I'm not critical of what other organizations do, but I will tell you that I don't believe we've ever successfully pass legislation or change public culture when we segregate our morality. And that's why we focus on the work that we focus on today.
Let me interrupt you a second, Reverend. I don't understand what segregate morality means.
Well, what I mean by that is when we say one group of lives matter, we have to be clear that it doesn't mean to the disadvantage of other folks. When we say Black Lives Matter, I think our messaging, the way we approach the subject matter, our tone and tenor has got to suggest that we mean Black Lives Matter, not to say that other lives don't matter, but it's just a fact of the matter that in this environment that we live, Black and brown people are suffering disproportionately from police-involved tragedy. But I think our messaging has got to be, and I say that because in a historical context, again, I was born 10 years after Dr. King was killed, but I still am a student of that generation.
Some other screens
As they were marching in Selma and Montgomery and St. Augustine and so many other places around the South, it wasn't Black lives or Negroes would overcome. It was Black and white together we would overcome. And that's what I mean by segregating a morality. We have to speak in a language that endears those to our struggle that need to be a part of our witness.
Let me interject here because I'm of two minds. And first of all, let me say that I'm in complete agreement with what you just said. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the way the animal portion of our minds work, until we are jarred, things don't get done. So whereas you are pragmatic and you want to work together with people or whatever, you don't get much attention. Black Lives Matter goes out there and really put a whole lot of things in your face. Then you matter because it's like, oh, I see what they're saying. I want to work with you. I mean, I spoke to the people, to the actual founder of the Black Lives Matter, and I had the same argument that you had there, that why at least didn't you say Black Lives Matter too? Just adding that one word would have said, would have prevented the right from making it a racial issue as opposed to a asking issue. And what she said was, we didn't want to further go ahead and say our mattering was in your hands. We just want to know that we matter. So I'm of two minds between messaging and actually taking command of your own being. So,
well, I think it's on par with what you and I have discussed previously, and that is there's one approach to raising the issue, but there's another approach to solving the problem.
Right.
And when I talk about the fact that we've done the marching and the protesting, there's nobody. I live in Atlanta, birthplace, if you will, of the modern civil rights movement. There's no one in Atlanta who has led more marches, protests, and demonstrations than I have, and certainly no one who has been more successful in holding police officers responsible for killing people. That has been my life's work, and I will continue to march. But at some point, we have to transition our marching into actually turning our pain into power, as I say, and really focusing on the solution. So we've done those things. This subject matter is before the consciousness of the American people. Everybody knows that there have to be some changes with regard to our criminal justice system. There have to be some modernization. We also on the other side of it, over the last several years. Burglaries are up, murders are up, robberies are up, and so the
Oh, I see. I think I forgot to do.
served by reducing officer-involved tragedies are the same communities that are being victimized disproportionately by crime and violence, which is why I suggest now that we've raised the issue, the American people understand our cry around Black Lives Matter. Now we have to turn that cry into an actual solution. And that's what we're seeking to do with our work.
Is there a studio or something I would do?
Segue, Reverend Hutchins. So what are you doing? What's your organization doing? What's the conglomerate of your organization going to do to actually make that a reality?
I am of the belief, my brother, that as long as we're reduced to yelling and screaming at each other and standing in our individual corners with only collaborating and coalescing with people that think the way we do, there's very little progress that can be made. I've taken a distinctly different approach, and we initiated the largest police community outreach project in American history. If you'd asked me 10 years ago when I was leading marches and putting protesters in the street and getting arrested, if I would be at this place, I probably would have disagreed. But at this point, I've grown to the place of maturity where I understand that just my leading protests or marches or being a part of those demonstrations is just not enough. The more it seems as though, the more over the last several years we've continued to march and protest, the more officer-involved tragedies have come. So we put one killer of George Floyd behind bars, and yet we continue to see officer-involved tragedies. That led me to believe that we need to take a different approach. We need to take an approach that really contemplates what the challenges are. These mutual biases, the fears in all directions, are what are fueling these officer-involved tragedies. These police officers were quick to pull the trigger, don't really see the humanity in the people that they're policing. That was what killed George Floyd. It was not a violation of policy or procedure because, or it was not a flawed policy or procedure. The officer that killed George Floyd violated his department's policy and procedure. So what the policy and procedure was inept. What it was is that officer did not see the humanity in George Floyd, and that humanity cannot be taught in an academy. The answers to the challenges we face in this moment will not simply be printed in a policy and procedures manual.
Hello and welcome, Earthlings, to the October 4th, 2021 Illusions Exist. I have a few things in store. Starting to think about a morning, East Coast morning stream, things like that. Now, this is a pretty raw data stream, right? We like to just have a conversation. And if that's not you, then I apologize. You should give it a try. We're listening to Egberto Williams and some classical music there in the countdown phase. I'm learning to use these tools a little bit better. Now, so I wonder what happens if I edit that now, but let's just go out of studio mode. How do we get out of studio mode? Ooh, what's the highlighter? Interesting, I'll have to look at that. That looks good. Should I click that? I'll try it later. I honestly don't see how to get... Oh, editor. No. Oh, here. Boom. All right, there we go. So, hey, this is live right now, this volcano. Did I point the wrong way, right? Because I'm on this side. I'm looking at it right now, but really, it's down here. I'm looking down here at that. I got various things. Okay, now, so this is La Palma volcano. Some of you might have heard about a mega tsunami. No, not a problem, really. I mean, it's a thing. Regular tsunami more so, though. But, yeah, I've been watching this thing, I don't know, days and days. What would it be? Maybe 120 hours or something. Not constantly, but I have been kept it streaming that whole time. Somehow I wanted to keep in touch with it, so I've kept it streaming throughout the night and stuff. So it's night there right now, and this volcano is just freaking amazing. And here's the sound. Awesome, right? See the bits of stuff rolling down the hill over here. Bits fly, and you can see them land and then roll down the hills there. It's funny, in the daytime it's just all black. This whole hillside, everything's black. The smoke here, this stuff flying out, you can barely see. It's orange sometimes down in the core. But now, impressive, am I right? I am right. Alright, so a couple things going on. First of all, get that up to date. Got audio, right? Hear this stuff flying out, you can... Sounds like it. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is just catch up with today's headlines, which, you know, if anybody wants to suggest a place to get headlines, I would be willing to survey other headlines cold view. I was thinking of doing Fox News. Do they have headlines? Fox News headlines. See what they're talking about today. But before that, it's going to be good old Amy Goodman. 12 minutes of Amy Goodman. That's good, right? Everybody loves Amy Goodman, best journalist alive probably at the moment. I know everybody agrees with that. All right, here we go.
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the war. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org,
Testing.
the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Hundreds of rallies took place across the United States Saturday amidst a mounting assault on reproductive rights. The protests and marches came 1 month after Texas' near-total ban on abortions went into effect. This is a demonstrator in Austin, Texas.
They've been trying to fight Roe v. Wade for nearly 50 years now. And I'll be honest, when it happened, I thought, oh, the Supreme Court's going to have to knock it down again. And when they didn't, it was, we have to fight. It just goes to show why elections matter.
Yep.
And so we have to get back out of the streets, and we have to march, and we have to organize, and we have to fight.
A federal judge in Texas.
So this is the kind of thing a lot of right-wingy type people that are consider themselves on the left will say, we shouldn't be trying to do this. This people are against it, and therefore, well, whatever. Just like the border issue. Whatever. You're making us lose. No, you and me might not be on the same team, is what's going on.
Texas is now considering arguments from the Justice Department over whether to suspend the Texas ban while courts consider its legality.
Which they should.
After headlines will show clips of Saturday's nationwide protests and speak with Alexis McGill-Johnson, president of Planned Parenthood Federation of America. The U.S. has surpassed 700,000 confirmed COVID-19 deaths. The official death toll is by far the highest in the world, even though the U.S. has had widespread access to life-saving vaccines for months.
So, yeah, this is a world-changing thing, game changer here in America, because in the United States of America, I should say, because these guys get upset about immigrants raping people, killing people. Well, is it 700,000? Is it even, unless it's 10 times more than the flu, nobody cares, right? Can't make me put on a mask, right? Because that's too much. 700,000 dead isn't enough. It's a matter of principle. What about 3,000 dead in a terrorist attack? Oh, well, that's different. No, it isn't different. Other than this is, 200 times more. No. 3,000. 20 times more. 20 and a half times more.
In brighter news, the summer's devastating surge fueled by the Delta variant slowing down, though some northern states are still reporting rising cases. In California, Governor Gavin Newsom announced the first in the nation COVID vaccine mandate for K through 12 students. The mandate takes effect as early as next fall, and after regulators approve its use in all affected age groups. Meanwhile, the New York City teacher vaccine mandate goes into effect today.
Look, if that's, I was just doing that again. It's 233 times more have died of COVID than died of September 11th. So look at all the things we had to do because of September 11th. Having to wear a mask or even get a vaccine, not the biggest deal in the world. Now, should you have to get a vaccine? Let's be clear on this. They're not going to come and pin you down and put a vaccine into your system. They're just going to say, hey, you can't travel. Just like if you don't wear pants, you can't get on a plane, you can't go in a restaurant, you can't walk in the street. So you can not wear pants, but you have to stay at home. Now, is that an imposition? I think it's an imposition to have to take my shoes off at the airport, since it's pointless and doesn't help with security. But I can keep my shoes on at home or walking around. You have to measure these things. Now, the rights that we lost because of 9/11 were extreme. Having to follow public health guidelines, much less extreme. And frankly, if people weren't being jerks about it, making a big deal about it, if everybody that wasn't scared of the vaccine just got it, not as a matter of principle, then those that were genuinely afraid of it and those that couldn't take it would be more free to do so. You guys ruin it for everybody just by not sticking with an actual argument based on the science. Now, can you have your own opinion? Yeah, but everybody else gets their own opinion too. If we don't want you in our restaurant and I own the restaurant, then we don't have to let you into my restaurant.
day. The city said 93% of teachers have now received at least one dose. On Friday, Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor denied an emergency appeal by a group of educators who were seeking to halt the vaccine mandate while their lawsuit against the order plays out in court. In Southern California, an oil pipeline ruptured off the coast of Huntington Beach Saturday, causing a massive spill that fouled beaches and wetlands with more than 125,000 gallons of oil. Huntington Beach Mayor Kim Carr called the disaster one of the most devastating situations faced by the community in decades.
The company responsible for this oil spill, which we understand to be Beta Offshore, a California subsidiary of Houston-based Amplify Energy Corporation, is working on the cleanup effort as well. In the coming days and weeks, we challenge the responsible parties to do everything possible to rectify this environmental catastrophe.
Dead birds and marine animals have begun washing ashore on Huntington Beach. The affected area includes an ecological reserve that's home to dozens of bird species. A massive coordinated leak of nearly 12 million secret documents is giving an unprecedented look at the covert financial dealings of hundreds of politicians, billionaires, religious leaders, drug lords, and celebrities. 35 current and former world leaders are featured in the documents known as the Pandora Papers. One of them is Jordan's King Abdullah, who is secretly holding millions of dollars in offshore tax havens, has spent part of his fortune on lavish homes around the world. The documents also implicate current presidents Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya and Guillermo Lasso of Ecuador, former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, and former associates of the Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan, as well as associate of Russian President Vladimir Putin. More than 600 journalists contribute to the reporting from the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, which was compiled over 2 years. The materials come from 14 global financial services firms dating as far back as the 70s, though most of the files are from the past 25 years. The whistleblower who leaked tens of thousands of pages of internal Facebook documents has come forward. Former Facebook product manager Frances Haugen spoke publicly for the first time on CBS's 60 Minutes.
Facebook has demonstrated they cannot act independently. Facebook over and over again has shown it chooses profit over safety. It is subsidizing, it is paying for its profits with our safety. I'm hoping that this will have had a big enough impact on the world that they get the fortitude and the motivation to actually go put those regulations into place.
Haugen's revelations were which were behind a sweeping investigation by the Wall Street Journal showed Facebook executives had significant understanding of the way its products are implicated in issues including child safety, political misinformation, and human trafficking. Haugen is testifying before a Senate panel Tuesday. Lawmakers are also pursuing Facebook as part of a federal antitrust case. And
one I heard was that they had learned that there was a downward spiral into depression for kids on the platform, and then went ahead and are launching like Instagram for babies
over its role in the January 6th Capitol insurrection. In Afghanistan, at least 5 people were killed Sunday in an explosion outside a Kabul mosque. A funeral service for the mother of a Taliban spokesperson was underway at the time of the attack. No one's claimed responsibility for the bombing, but attacks by ISIS-K have increased since the Taliban takeover in August. Meanwhile, the Norwegian Refugee Council warns Afghanistan's economy is on the brink of collapse as the humanitarian crisis continues to grow. Over 18 million people rely on aid to survive, with 1 in 3 Afghans facing acute hunger, this according to the UN World Food Programme. In India, at least 8 people were killed in the northern state of Uttar Pradesh on Sunday after a vehicle plowed into a demonstration led by farmers. The car was owned by a federal minister whose son was arrested in connection with the attack. Farmers have been resisting 3 pro-corporate agricultural laws enacted by Prime Minister Narendra Modi for about a year. They vowed to intensify pressure on Modi's government to repeal the laws, which deregulate agricultural markets and roll back key labor and income protections. Millions of farmers and opponents of the reforms have staged multiple strikes across India since last November. In Libya, officials detained some 4,000 refugees, including children, during multiple raids Friday. The United Nations says at least one refugee was killed, at least 15 injured in the crackdown. On Sunday, Libya's Coast Guard intercepted a wooden boat carrying some 500 refugees attempting to reach European soil. Many of them were from Sudan, Somalia, Bangladesh, and Syria. Refugees have reported facing torture and other violent and inhumane conditions at Libyan detention camps. Doctors Without Borders warns over 3 million people in northern Syria are facing shortages of water as crucial sanitation infrastructure has been destroyed after a decade of war. The humanitarian group says even when water is accessible, it's at times contaminated and unsafe to drink, making Syrians vulnerable to contracting waterborne diseases and other health issues, including hepatitis. Qatar held its first-ever legislative election Saturday to select two-thirds of the Advisory Shura Council.
I want to call it
Qatar
Qatar.
does not allow political parties, but the council has legislative authority over general state policies in the country's budget. Hoping to make history, a handful of women ran in the elections. None won their seats. This is candidate Aisha Hamam Al-Jassim.
I just say I'm strong, I'm capable, I see myself I'm same fit like you as a man. I don't see myself I'm weaker. If you want to see me as a weak, that is up to you, but I am not a weak, I'm in administrations.
In the run-up to the vote, Qatari officials detained at least 21 citizens who were peacefully protesting laws around the election that bar certain people from running and voting. In the Canary Islands, Spanish scientists warned Sunday a volcanic eruption on the island of La Palma is becoming more aggressive, shows no signs of ending anytime soon. A new crater was also discovered in the Cumbre Vieja volcano, which has been gushing out lava for weeks, destroying hundreds of homes and forcing the evacuation of thousands of residents. Officials lifted a stay-at-home order, citing improving air quality after the eruption triggered the release of toxic gas clouds. Taiwan's military scrambled fighter jets over the weekend in response to two major incursions by the Chinese Air Force. Over 75 planes flew into airspace designated by Taiwan as an air defense identification zone on Friday and Saturday. This follows joint U.S., Japanese, and Australian military exercises in the South China Sea, and after the U.S., U.K., and Australia announced a new strategic military alliance in the Asia-Pacific known as AUKUS. Back in the U.S., House Speaker Nancy Pelosi set a new target date of October 31st to pass the bipartisan infrastructure bill after delaying last week's vote amidst fractures within the Democratic Party. Progressive Democrats have said they will not vote on the $1 trillion bill without a firm commitment to also vote on the larger 10-year reconciliation package that would expand the social safety net and combat the climate crisis. President Biden met with Democratic lawmakers Friday and reportedly told them that after talks with conservative Democrats Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, the proposed top-line budget of $3.5 trillion would likely need to be slashed to between $1.9 and $2.3 trillion. But in a boost to progressives, Biden said he supports passing both bills in tandem and believes Democrats can gather the support to do so. He spoke after meeting with lawmakers Friday.
It doesn't matter when. It doesn't matter whether it's in 6 minutes, 6 days, or 6 weeks.
Don't quite agree with that, but fine, make that point. But the thing is here, what's bugging me about this stuff is the way they keep saying that Manchin is a moderate. Oh, the moderates. And then some people, of course, are doing the old trope of blame the progressives won't go along with it. Well, this is Biden's bills. He's saying vote for all of them. The progressives already compromised to what Biden wanted. The whole right-wing idea that, oh, Biden won and then he just did Bernie's platform. No, that's not how it works. He didn't run on his own platform and then adopt Bernie's losing platform. That makes no sense. So this is his plan now. It's probably pretty liberal for Biden, given Biden's historical positions on things. But it's his, and that's what the moderates are wanting, and the conservatives in the party are the ones that are trying to tank it, and of course every Republican.
We're going to get it done.
The House passed a bill last week that would end sentencing disparities between offenses linked to crack cocaine and powder cocaine. The policy, dating back to the so-called war on drugs in the 1980s, has disproportionately locked up black Americans at a rate of 18-to-1 compared to whites. Advocates say the accompanying Senate bill, which has at least 3 Republican co-sponsors, has a chance of getting the 60 votes it needs to pass there. Here in New York, a judge sentenced environmental and human rights lawyer Stephen Donziger to the maximum penalty of 6 months in prison for contempt of court. The misdemeanor charges were linked to a lawsuit brought by Chevron, which has been targeting Donziger ever since he successfully sued the oil giant in Ecuador on behalf of indigenous people whose land was contaminated by Chevron. Donziger has already spent over 2 years under house arrest, and the UN and other rights groups have called for his release. This is Donziger in a social media video posted after his Friday sentencing.
It's very clear Judge Preska wants me to serve my 6-month sentence immediately so that even if I get exonerated on appeal, I still will have served a sentence for a crime I never committed. And again, another example, I think, of the punitive nature of what's happening. It's almost unheard of for someone convicted of a misdemeanor in the United States not to be let out pending his or her appeal.
And in other news from New York, a statue honoring George Floyd was vandalized Sunday, just 2 days after its unveiling ceremony. Police footage shows an unidentified white man on a skateboard throwing paint on the bronze statue. Floyd's sculpture is being displayed at Union Square, along 2 others honoring the late Congressmember John Lewis and Breonna Taylor. The busts of the 3 were created by the artist Chris Kamabuchi. The statue of Floyd had previously been vandalized just 5 days after it was first unveiled on Juneteenth in Flatbush, Brooklyn. It was marked with a logo linked to the white supremacist group Patriot Front. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. When we come back, bands off our bodies. Thousands march across the country in hundreds of demonstrations in a national day of action to protect abortion rights. We'll speak with the president of the Planned Parenthood Federation of America and hear the moving testimony of Congress members talking about their own abortions. Stay with us.
Watch that later. All right, so there, that's a good thing. Now, the next thing, we're going to do a little interlude before we watch the final video of the stream. We're doing 37 right on. And this is going to be being versus becoming. Just a quick little thing. Okay, so being versus becoming, this is a huge thing. This is one of those, this is the Hythloday, this is the Hythloday principle interlude. I guess that got a little messed up because I was thinking of 2 things. So let's do this and get this guy back. This is live. So, interlude. That doesn't have to be better. Okay, so now this is an interesting thing because, okay, there's a couple stuff in here. So basically we have, well, let me start it this way. Being, let's do 2 categories. Oops, I hate when that happens. Okay, I have to find out what's causing that. Being, and over here we'll have becoming. And what's funny about words like this is the word being is related to be. That's the same as to exist. And these are irregular words, just like to do. It's funny that the most used, probably most ancient concepts encoded into words, and the other words almost start to orbit around it like it was the sun. And when I lean down, you can't see me, whatever though. Okay, so if you're concerned about being, you ask like, what sort of person am I? Right? What sort of person am I? But in becoming, you would say, you know, what sort of person? I need to work on my handwriting for this, probably. Am I becoming? Which is a much better question, right? Now, if you're trying to make an excuse for your behaviors, for example, somebody says, hey, you're an asshole, Piero, because you're an ass all the time. How do you stop it? I don't know. It seems like if I write, suddenly it'll stop and then it won't. And you could say, oh, but I'm becoming a good person. Yeah, I am this, but I'm becoming... No, it's not about what you explain or excuse or excuses you make to other people. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about for yourself, when you're thinking to yourself, what kind of a person am I? It's better to think of what kind of a person am I becoming. If you do something terrible and say, but that's not the kind of person I am, which people literally say in politics, that's not who we are. You know, American bombs a wedding and kills people. Ah, it's made me sad because that's not who we are. That is who you are. You just did that. So that's who you are. Oh, but I don't want to think of myself that way, because you're stuck with this idea of a timeless thing. To be is an error. What is and is not is, are, was, were. It's as if things are in a moment, right? But really, even in a moment, something's always happening. We know this from certain philosophers said that, but they were right on chart with natural philosophy. Things are always changing. Nothing is staying still. Things are always becoming something else. So if you did something and were inclined to go, but that's not who I am, what you're really trying to say is that you're becoming something different, something that wouldn't do that anymore. And maybe you are something that already knows that you don't want to do that and is already minimizing it. Great. Whatever you need to feel better about yourself. This is philosophy. This is how to feel the real way about real things. But it happens that a truthful way of looking at things is the best leverage you have to accepting things the way they are and becoming what you really want them to be. To say, oh, I have these huge standards, that's good if you can get to them, but if they're like huge standards and you're like, that's who I am, but I do these other things, you're never going to get there. And it's kind of like guilt. It's just an excuse to say, oh, there's nothing I can do but feel bad. At least I feel bad, and so everything's fine, right? So, okay. So it's one versus the other, and being is an error, becoming is correct. Being is a shorthand so we can say certain sentences without having to think about the past and the future and everything. And then in reality, when we're thinking of physics, we're thinking of philosophy, we're thinking of politics, it's all about becoming. We're on a road to somewhere. People want to hold on to cultures that they didn't even have when they were a kid. They're holding on to a dream. They're trying to keep something still that's never been still. And the thing about self-improvement is this is important. But people say, oh, don't stay the same, you got to change yourself. It's not like that. What's really going on is you are going to change. And it can either drift with the wind, flow with the currents, it can roll down the hill. A million things can happen, and maybe some of those are fine. Maybe you're like, you know what, I'm in a pretty good place on this little stream. I'm just going to drift with the current, right? The point is you're going to change. And sometimes in that little stream, there's going to be a little rapid. You're going to want to change on purpose. You're going to want to, you either just change at random or as the wind blows, or you take part in changing yourself, right? You're going to change either way. You either steer or not. The go-kart's flying down the hill. The wagon is shooting down the hill. You could steer or not. You're going down the hill either way. Something's going to happen either way. There's certainly times in people's lives where like, I don't want to steer. I personally think mostly you should steer all the time. Or park the wagon and have a picnic. And you don't have to steer, but you do have to, you know, see if there's ants in the potato salad. So this is really important because this is actually something you all need to learn. And this is the kind of thing where, you know, we're connecting with you guys. It'll get out. It's only a few degrees of separation. I don't need credit for these ideas nearly as much as I need you guys to figure them out. You know, improve them. Come back at me with improvements. All right. Good enough? You got that? Everybody's got that? We're good? We're cool? We're doing good? Okay. So, next up, we will have the Doomed podcast with Matt Binder, one of my favorite Matts and favorite Binders, on, I think it's on Jimmy Dore. So I'm trying to find things that I can cold watch with you guys, but there's so much stuff. And a lot of the stuff that I would watch that's worth watching again, I don't really want to just watch again. I'd have to, like, maybe I could program and restream it, because I do kind of want to show you guys things that I watch, just to get you to see them, not necessarily comment. But I realize when I watch other people, what'll happen when they're commenting and they show me a stream, it's like, oh, that looks interesting, I'll go watch it, and then I'll watch them comment. We'll try to have links and stuff like that. We'll get into that habit. So Matt says something on Jimmy Dore. This is a clip thing. I might have seen it because I watch Matt's streams, so I'm not absolutely saying this is a successful cold watch, but we'll see. Sometimes he's making videos now. Matt Binder used to be a producer on the Majority Report, and he kind of covers a lot of QAnon, conservative movements, things like that, and is just generally a cool dude. So, let's put this off and see what Matt's up to. Oops, not what I wanted to do.
Jimmy Dore is still talking up Nina Turner's loss in her Ohio District 11, I believe it was, election back in, what was it? Was it early August? I think so, right? Just, you know, this is he had on this guy who goes by Socialist MMA on Twitter. He's another one of those Dore-esque People's Party types, you know, the same type of politics that, like, the Convo Couch, those two people I had a debate with a couple of weeks back.
I think I did see this clip.
You know, that sort of,
I mean,
like,
not a clip. I saw it when it was live. Sounds familiar.
I'm further left than you type, you know, ridiculousness. But here they are talking about Nina Turner's loss to Chantel Brown, who was the centrist in the race, and obviously Nina Turner was running a progressive campaign as the left-wing candidate. And I mean, let's just play. Let's just play, because I don't even. This is just. I saw this making the rounds, and I had to give it a listen. Here we go.
How could you be running as a progressive for Congress in the middle of a pandemic and not show up to a Medicare for All march?
Oh my God!
And then you're surprised you lost? You're surprised more people didn't show up for you? The most popular policy in the country is Medicare for All. You don't show up for a Medicare for All march, and you expect people who have a revolutionary spirit to vote for you, to get off their ass to vote, and then you lose and you don't know why?
Well, I mean, this is just. I mean, I went through this. I did videos.
Well, the thing is that I don't know if you guys know, but Jimmy had an idea. He wanted to force the vote. And then it's kind of like when Trump started using fake news, he acted like, I invented that term, which he didn't, of course. But it was there to talk about things like Pizzagate and stuff, but he co-opted it really well. I got to give him credit. That was some good linguistic co-opting. Jimmy did a similar thing with force the vote. Now, forcing the vote is something that has always been a thing. The idea is that you force people to take the vote in your Congress or whatever, and everybody has to take a stand. Now, it doesn't necessarily, by calling it force to vote, you're not necessarily saying it'll win. Sometimes people force a vote because they think it can win, because people will be embarrassed to fight. People that are maybe trying to keep it to not have to vote on it, people would be put in a rock and a hard place kind of situation. They, they're trying to make it not even have to have a vote. And so you put them on record, and, some of those people will vote yes or just be forced. Maybe their constituents want it and they don't want to come out. But they might have some other reasons, personal beliefs, or, their funders or whatever, backers. So forcing the vote, though, in this case, we knew it wouldn't pass a Medicare for all vote. But the idea is to get everybody on record. On the other hand, we pretty much have everybody on record. So what would really be the point at this point? Furthermore, we know Jimmy doesn't understand what the hell he's talking about, because he would call people shit libs, MSNBC, corporate liberals for supporting the public option, for example, which I think Biden supported, I forget. I'm really pissed at the whole original thing that they didn't do the public option, because they discussed it, and obviously they should have, so every little state would at least have the public option available, but whatever. It's 2021. And, he's hating on everybody that has these kinds of things as watered down sellouts. And yet Tulsi, who he's a fan of, because Tulsi would still go on his show, basically, is what it seems like, she's not for Medicare for all. She wants the Australian system. And he's like, oh, that's fine. That's Australian Medicare for all. No, that's more like the public option. I don't know. If you're an expert in the Australian system, go ahead and put it below. But basically, it's not Medicare for all. It's more like adding a public option, is my understanding. If I'm wrong in that, please do correct me. But especially in the sense that it's not Medicare for all. First of all, they don't have Medicare. But even if they have something like Medicare, they didn't just make Medicare for all. That's a different path. All right, so he's a purist, but he doesn't really know what he's talking about. He decides the purism based on who's his allies, and often who will, as soon as Bernie wouldn't go on his show anymore, Bernie's an asshole. As soon as this, then that. As soon as Kyle Kalinske doesn't, slaver and be a sycophant for Jimmy, he's an asshole, even though he was trying to be nice, which is stupid of you, Kyle. And by the way, I might talk about people like Kyle Kalinske. Don't assume I'm fans of all these people. I don't watch. I'm not a big fan of Kyle Kalinski's, but it's sort of a let a million flowers grow. I want all the different types of liberals and progressives, and for that matter, conservatives, and every possible to every philosophy. But in terms of wanting more like progressive realizations here in the factor, everybody fine. We shouldn't fight among each other, but you also shouldn't give everybody a pass just because they're on your side. Jimmy takes it to the extreme of it's like high school to him, and he doesn't really understand the policies.
On this March for Medicare for All event that happened.
And he's taken a shit ton of people with him. Glenn Greenwald. I thought Aaron Mattei even was decent. Certainly, Max Blumenthal, I think is that guy's name. And there's just this guy, I forget his name, but I've seen him before. He's taking some of the people that should be the flowers blooming on the left to really hold the feet to the fire that are in danger of just becoming pro right-wing populism, which is, 1/3 of the three-legged stool of fascism, in my opinion.
In July, that was put together by these Dore-esque types. The force the vote people. Again, I'm not anti-political activism, on-the-ground activism. I actually told people where they could check out details for the march, and if it was something for them to definitely go down.
I watched
check it out.
Oh, that's an interesting. So I watched it, and then the after party, maybe Katie Halper's channel. Not fond of her. But again, I never liked Matt Taibbi, but anyway, they're dragging them all in that direction. But anyway, in which Jimmy basically cussed out all his allies that did go to the rally.
Did not shit talk the march or the organizers. My issue with it was the people who were saying this type of stuff. The fact that going to this one specific event made it or basically made it or broke it if you were a true leftist, which is ridiculous. There are direct actions on the ground, in the street, activism, events.
Hey, there's a couple people watching now. It would be nice to have a big group of people in the stream, but until I set my stream at a particular time, I'm obviously not promoting that in that way or making it easy for you guys. Let's put it that way. However, it is possible we could do something about that. But just so you know, the idea is I don't want to edit a video. I want it to be unedited, uninterrupted. Mistakes, stumbling, me having to look something up and then looking it up, not preparing it to look like something else or a version of myself with all the ums and ahs removed or anything else. So this is really just a way of recording a video. On the other hand, I think for conversational purposes, obviously I've got the Discord stuff up there. I would love people to take part. And one thing is, if you jump in here, the potential prize is if you get my attention by going in the broadcasting text, putting in the YouTube comments, I'm watching those, that you're over there. You can go into the broadcasting thing and I'll figure out how to get you on here. Now, I haven't actually set that up. I need to do that, but I think we could do it live and wouldn't be that big of a deal. And in other words, I think if you just get in there, I'd hear your audio, but we haven't double checked. If you want to share your video, I haven't set up a window for it, but could do that. So, back to Matt Binder and Jimmy Dore.
Going on a regular basis. People cannot go to every single one. Missing one does not kill your left-wing bona fides. Yet, because these guys don't usually do these things, the March for Medicare for All became their Woodstock. Like, this is it. This is the one event. The same way your hippie parents in the 60s talk about Woodstock because they were weekend warriors who just went to these rock concerts, when it was like the one big event to go to. And
I don't know if I should speed this up or not. I usually listen to him at regular speed. But the thing is, I think I cut myself off of, after all of that, Jimmy acts like force the vote is just his thing. And every time somebody says, let's force a vote on this, let's force a vote on that, he's like, oh, he's stealing my idea. It's just so ridiculous of a guy. Let's do speed up just a little bit.
Weren't like the people going down to the basement shows and the bar shows and the church.
I really like this metaphor.
The church basement shows and the thrown together punk shows every week, that I was going to back in my.
So he's talking about it's like the one true event that had to happen. The weird thing would be this one didn't happen. So having gone to it made it the big deal. But the thing is, it really needs to, it's like they had the big peace rallies. They didn't, against the Vietnam War, they didn't just stop the war the next day. They have to roll up into the next thing.
I did, but no, there's like, it's the same shit. That's the same shit, basically. Like, that's a perfect analogy, quite frankly. Like, this is their one event because they don't usually do this shit for them.
Totally
they don't
perfect,
even do this shit. So for them, this was it.
That's true. It's not a perfect, though.
So because Nina Turner didn't go to...
I think what he's saying is, like, if somebody went to Woodstock because it was the hugest event and they had to go, but they weren't a part of the festival scene, they didn't go to the regular concerts, they didn't go to the other big festivals, Monterey, what was the Monterey Pop Festival or whatever, they didn't do all of those, and they just went to the one and was like, this is the whole deal. They didn't realize that it's a whole culture and a series of events before something becomes, like, ingrained and we can force a vote where... public health care passes.
The Ohio March for Medicare for All. And instead, on that day, did an event with AOC, a campaign event for her campaign with AOC. They think that this is what tanked her campaign because she didn't show that she was a true Medicare for All supporter because she didn't go to this March for Medicare for All event in Ohio. They never point out that the Ohio March for Medicare for All event did not take place in Nina Turner's district. She would have had to have driven 2+ hours, if I recall, outside of her district to attend the Ohio March for Medicare for All event.
Trying to be around an hour.
I think it was like 10 days before the election day for her race was. Just ludicrous. Ludicrous. Oh, Marla points out Nina is working at TYT now, which is probably why she's back on Jimmy Dore's radar. Of course, right. That makes sense. Nina Turner did not lose because she didn't go to the March for Medicare for All event. Full stop.
Totally obviously
Anyone
agree.
making this assessment is a joke. You should not take them seriously.
Jimmy Dore is a joke, so...
That is the craziest thing. In the middle of a pandemic, you're not going to show up to a Medicare for All march? The most popular policy in the country. And
I mean, listen.
I wish.
They're also still holding
Well,
on
I don't
to
wish.
these
There's a lot of
old
important things.
polls from the primary, all of which were taken in like the first or second quarter of 2020. This is like old. Is Medicare for All popular according to those polls? Yes, it is. Unfortunately,
Is it popular enough to win an election on a special election? Evidently not.
things don't always seem to work out that way, right? I mean, ending the wars was also very popular for quite a while too. Like, you know, bringing our troops home. Yet Joe Biden only did this last month. I mean, if you poll now, I would guarantee probably that there are other more pressing issues, actually. I know people are going to say, oh my God, I can't believe Matt just said that. But I'm sure that for people who are about to be evicted, the number one pressing issue is evictions, and their biggest support would go with the eviction moratorium. You know, people's priorities have changed a bit. Obviously, Medicare for All is still very important. But even Bernie Sanders
Any
has
universal
made the
health care is
political
open to me.
to work on other things that have better chances of happening right now. You could agree, you could disagree with that, but it is what it is. That's what the situation we find ourselves in, right?
Wonder why you couldn't beat the establishment. I wonder why.
And they made a ton of excuses for why Nina Turner lost. And if you looked at the rhetoric at the time, they was immediately punching down. They blamed the People's Party. They was blaming you.
Yeah, well, that's silly too. I don't know anyone who really did that.
It's kind of funny.
And the reason that's silly, though, is the same reason why...
It's kind of funny about blaming and punching down in this respect. I think it's kind of a hollow...
Not attending the March for Medicare for All rally is silly, right? Like, the two reasons why that's both of those, that Nina Turner lost because she didn't attend the March for Medicare for All rally, and the assessment that Nina Turner lost because of the People's Party or Jimmy Dore actively criticizing her or working against her, both of those, they're on opposite sides, right?
The new People's Party in Canada is far right, so that's going to be fun.
Right? But both of those assessments are stupid for the same reason. And that reason is that your tiny subsection of the left is, quite frankly, inconsequential, unimportant, ineffective, politically non-existent. It is what it is. I would never blame the People's Party or Jimmy Dore or any forced to vote nonsense or anything like that on the reason Nina Turner lost, and that is for the reason that that shit isn't on the mind of voters. The majority of voters don't even know what that shit is. That's also why she didn't lose because of the March for Medicare for All rally, not attending that. I would venture to guess that 99.99999% of the people that voted in that special election did not even hear of such an event.
Everybody except him. I said Nina Turner lost because the squad disappointed their base.
That's right.
Now, and people got mad at me like,
that's also fucking ridiculous. Who do these guys, these forced to vote Jimmy Dore folks, who do they think they are? Like, they really think they're way more important than they are. Same for, like, where they place the overall left. Quite frankly. I'm a leftist. I support a lot of the things they probably support, although we have very different ways of getting about it, or a lot of things they say they support, I should say. But I also have the political understanding and knowledge to know where the left exists in the current time period. And while it is growing and getting stronger and stronger, the majority of voters do not have the same political knowledge that people in this political bubble have. Yes, are people who vote in primaries and especially special elections more knowledgeable?
I honestly don't think there's really many people.
Presidential election, of course, but that doesn't mean they're in the same political bubble
in my
as people
sector
who do this day in and day out for their work, for
that
their
don't
hobby, whatever it
want
may be.
these kinds
People
of things
the
that
majority
Jimmy
of these people are not
rhetoric's
in
about.
the online political discourse where a lot of these random criticisms and feuds play out.
Most real politics in the broader sense going on, people don't know the whole force the vote thing, and yet to Jimmy, it's defining, and it's gonna basically isolate whatever part of the faction goes to stake out that attitude. If they think they're gonna get somewhere with Tucker Carlson, I think they got another thing coming.
Quite frankly, the squad also had little to no effect in the Ohio race that Nina Turner was a part of. You think someone in Ohio going out to vote is thinking about AOC in the Bronx? It's ludicrous. Did Nina Turner have AOC come out for her? Yes. Why would she do that? Because Nina Turner knew who her base is, right? So AOC comes out, and she's activating her base, leftists. Now, if you want to make the argument that her base didn't come out, that's also not true, because Nina Turner's overall vote total and the demographics where that came shows that she won those very votes. In fact, she even won, if I recall, she even won the black and brown vote in that election.
Yeah, that doesn't prove that
What
she brought
lost Nina
out all her
Turner the
base.
vote is the same thing that looks to have won Joe Biden the primaries and then the general election in 2020.
Which is the sad reality that the Democratic Party is not a bunch of progressives. They're not ready for the AOC or Bernie thing. They might never be ready. We're going to have to compromise our policies with the ones that they can stomach. Or outvote them when we get 2/3, if that kind of thing ever happens for certain policies, and they can do that to us and all the rest. But the fact is, the Democratic Party went for Biden, and there's a reason. That's what they like. They like that kind of... I think a lot of it isn't true. I think a lot of it's fake. I don't think a lot of the ideas are stupid. I think they're ignoring certain things that are demonstrated statistically about reality and public policy. But one thing you can't argue with is that's who the Democratic Party wanted. So Nina Turner was not exactly where that was going.
White suburban voters came out,
or where it is right now, I mean,
and voted for whomever the Democratic establishment was backing.
Yep. People like
Nina
Jimmy
Turner
people like Jimmy underestimate that. Yeah, that might be terrible, but it is also is the way it is, and it's not because people aren't voting for Biden that Biden wins. It's not like, oh, look, we had this sexy campaign of Bernie, now Biden better use those policies. No, that's just not how it works. Biden's going to use Biden's policies, and to the degree that Biden changed or adapted those policies to the fact that there seems to be more of a progressive movement, yeah, we're seeing that in the Biden policies, but they're not suddenly Bernie policies, right? Or my policies, of course.
Specifically, Nina Turner was toxic to them because she basically became the very symbol of the Bernie Sanders campaign, the anti-DNC, anti-democratic establishment Bernie Sanders campaign that they hated, even more so than Bernie. Like, Bernie, after he lost, put everything in to Joe Biden winning, right? Nina Turner, on the other hand, because of her 2016, her non-support of Hillary Clinton, and then in 2020, what she said about Joe Biden being like just as a bowl of shit or something like that, she basically created this persona for herself to them, which personified to those people everything they hated about the insurgent left-wing campaign that was really the Bernie Sanders campaign. And they basically took it out on her. They said, we can't have Nina win. And they put all this money, all these organizations threw money into this special election race. You had Clyburn come out and endorse.
It's getting pretty into the weeds here. I mean, I'm interested
Everyone
in this, but
came after Nina, and she lost for that reason. Should she run again? And would the result be different? Yes. And because I think like an anger management wasn't running for anything too.
So what?
People do not.
I mean, are you telling me that Nina Turner lost because she didn't attend the Medicare for All march? That the squad didn't force the vote? I said exactly.
Yes.
That's exactly why she lost. So what could have happened if you had?
How many people in Ohio District 11 do they think care about that shit? Like, it's so laughable. People do not care about your own personal stupid Twitter grudges.
It's not entirely clear how many care about that issue, but the idea that it's so simple that if she would have done that, she would have won, well, we know that's not true. Okay, Biden did not support Medicare for All, and that's one of the reasons some of the Democrats that also are nervous about it, whichever reasons, whether they think, oh, they'll never let us do it, it'll piss off the conservatives, or a lot of them just, they think that's too much. They just want to do this or that other thing. And we don't know exactly why or how many of them would think differently if they were better informed, or how many would, disagree with me if they're, who would change their, we don't know all of that. You could guess and try to run campaigns on it, but we do know that they didn't vote for it, right? What it's becoming, I think it's becoming more progressive. What is it now? Not more progressive.
How many people even showed up to the Ohio March for Medicare for All rally? A couple dozen?
I think he's going over this.
Now, are there candidates who pouring all this?
So if you can't
needs to say, Mayor,
all right.
Random marches.
I think we got the idea there. All right, like to share Matt and his stuff. Probably I'm going to try to find when he does something on Q or some other right-wing movement. He's good on that. And so the only other thing is, let's see, what are they saying for headlines over here? 404 not found. Oh yeah, because Facebook is out. Yeah, I was hearing about that. Longest ever social media worldwide outage. Yep, probably be a bunch of babies 9 months from now. Arresting Grinch face. Fauci clarifies Christmas gathering statement after igniting outrage. Okay, not important. Jen Psaki clashes with Peter Doocy over cost of Dem spending plan. Okay. Do you think they're going to have some video on that? I can watch that. Okay, let's see how it goes. Is that not a clip? That's just a play button just for fucking fun, right? Okay, great. Love it. Good job. That's an excellent interface. Okay, screw this. That might be interesting. I haven't been watching. I used to, let's say usually or in the past, I've watched all the briefings, like daily, because they put them on YouTube. I've actually watched less with Biden, but I still watch them. Tantrum for trillions. New York Times writer claims Biden really needs a win, so Dems should get on board. Agent killed after authorities run into chaos as gunfire erupts on Amtrak car. What the fuck? DEA agent. Shootout on the train. Tucson. Yikes. I have to give Fox credit for they cover these kinds of stories This is like when there's one of these things that CNN and everybody goes in rapture, including Fox, like I don't know, royal wedding or something. Fox will be the only of the three major ones going. A dog made it across the road, human interest kind of stuff. I think it's a mistake of the rest. So confirms what hiker claims he reported on the laundry sighting. Okay, hiker. Messed up man, he believes. Oh, haven't seen that because I haven't been following that, but I did watch this picture of what's his name, whatever his name is here, probable alleged killer here. This is from some what am I trying to say? Body cam from some cops. Very interesting and sad. Not a legitimate protest for bathroom stalking, blah 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 blah. Okay. Hardly any. None of those headlines we watched, right? CNN headlines. Do that later. All right, you guys. Of the future, mostly, and the few people that watch live, I will be talking to you later. I don't have a comment on that. All right. So, goodbye. I guess I'll go out this way. It's gonna work. Oh, it is. Here we go. Let's go with a little game here. Let's play one game because it cut off the end sometimes. Not usually, but enough. I'll just do it this way because who cares if this is cut off? By the way, I'm not good. I'm a gold. I think the middle level is platinum. Most people are platinum. Of course, I've only been playing a little while. Oh, you gotta say good luck. Because it's bad. Part of my game in here is to improve the sportsmanship. 2 on 2. Okay, here we go. Wish me luck, you guys. Okay, can't remember I'm broadcasting. I gotta just... Here we go. I love this game. This is great. It's free. I got it for free. I didn't pay. I don't like buying games. But this one was free on Epic Games. I don't know if it still is. Totally free. Ooh, a little bit of a problem with the frame rate there. I don't like that in Windows mode. Windowed mode, I mean. Oh shit, get it! Oh damn. Oh, my bad. Whoops. Sorry about that, my partner. Oh man. Oh! Totally my fault. Nice one. That might help the frame rate there. I was in studio mode. This is over, by the way. I'm over. This is just going out. We have 3.4544, not point. Ah! Nice shot. Nice. Oh, nope. Nice try. Overshot that one. I'm almost done with the stream, but I'm also playing. Okay, but I'm on a stream right now. Can I wait 5 minutes? What? I don't know why you'd want to buy a new toy. You have some construction going on here, you guys. You said to have a family meeting. It's not good and competitive. Well, I just wanted, like, to wait 3 minutes, please.